There are sounds that should never exist in an empty house. Sarah Chen learned this at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in March, when she heard her dead mother's voice singing a lullaby from the nursery she'd sealed shut 3 years ago. But that's not where this story begins. It begins 6 hours earlier, when she made the mistake of answering a phone call from her own number. The voice on the other end knew things, intimate things, things only she had thought, never spoken, and before she could hang up, it whispered 7 words that would shatter her understanding of reality. "I'm already inside. I've been waiting." What Sarah didn't know was that she was the 3rd person to receive this call in her neighborhood that month. The first 2 never made it to sunrise. Their bodies were found in positions that defied human anatomy, mouths frozen open as if trying to scream warnings into eternity. But here's what the police never released to the public, what the coroners couldn't explain. Each victim's phone showed an active call to their own number that never disconnected, even after death, still transmitting audio from inside the morgue, the sound of their own voices whispering prayers in languages they'd never learned. Tonight, I'm going to tell you 3 stories that law enforcement buried, stories that therapists refuse to discuss, stories that come from police reports sealed by court order and survivor testimonies given under psychological duress. These aren't campfire tales or urban legends passed through social media. These are documented cases of people who were alone at night when reality itself became predatory. Sarah had moved into the rental house in suburban Portland after her divorce, specifically choosing the isolated property because she wanted distance from her old life, from the memories that haunted her failed marriage, from the miscarriage that had broken everything between her and David. The house was affordable precisely because it had history. A mother and daughter had lived there before. The daughter, Emma, had been 17 when she vanished from her locked bedroom in 2019. No signs of forced entry, no evidence of struggle, just gone. The mother, Patricia, stayed in the house for another year, calling her daughter's phone every night at midnight, leaving voicemails in the desperate hope she'd return. Then one morning, neighbors noticed Patricia's car still in the driveway at noon. The front door was wide open. They found her in Emma's bedroom, positioned in the corner, facing the wall, phone clutched in her hand. She had been dead for approximately 14 hours. The autopsy revealed she'd died of cardiac arrest, but her face was locked in an expression coroners described as incompatible with natural death. Her eyes had hemorrhaged completely. Sarah knew none of these details when she moved in. The landlord had conveniently omitted them. She only learned the truth when she found a box of belongings in the attic 3 months after moving in. A box containing Emma's journals, Patricia's phone records, and something else. Photographs. Dozens of them, all taken inside the house, all showing the same thing in the background of seemingly normal family photos. A shadow that didn't match any object or person in the frame. A darkness that appeared progressively closer in each chronological photo, moving through the rooms like something learning the layout. When Sarah's phone rang at 8:47 p.m., she was watching Netflix, halfway through a documentary about deep-sea creatures, the kind of mindless content you consume when you're trying not to think about how quiet a house becomes after everyone you loved is gone. The caller ID made her stomach drop. It was her name, her number, her contact photo staring back at her from the screen. She almost didn't answer. Every rational instinct told her it was a scam, a spoofed number, some sophisticated phishing attempt. But curiosity, that human vulnerability, made her thumb move. She swiped to accept. Silence. Not empty silence, but the kind that has texture, the kind that presses against your eardrums like water pressure. Then breathing, steady, measured, exactly matching her own rhythm. "Hello?" Sarah said, her voice smaller than intended. The breathing stopped. 5 seconds of nothing. Then her own voice came through the speaker, but wrong. Like hearing yourself in a recording, but filtered through something that didn't understand human speech patterns quite right. "Sarah, you're alone. You've been alone. You prefer it, but you're not alone. You haven't been alone since you found the box." Her hand started shaking. "Who is this? How did you—" "Check the nursery." Her voice interrupted, but it wasn't her voice anymore. It was layered, harmonized with something else underneath, something that sounded like wind through a tunnel. "The door you sealed, it's open now. It's been open since midnight yesterday. You walked past it 17 times. You never looked." The call ended. Sarah sat frozen, phone still pressed to her ear, listening to dead air. The Netflix documentary played on, narrator describing creatures that live in eternal darkness, adapted to pressure that would crush human bones to powder. Her house made a sound then, a long, slow creak from upstairs.
Sarah hadn't been upstairs in 2 days. She'd reorganized her life to exist entirely on the ground floor, sleeping on the couch, using the downstairs bathroom, eating meals standing at the kitchen counter. It wasn't conscious avoidance at first, just convenience. But convenience had calcified into routine, and routine into something else. Fear she wouldn't name. The nursery was at the end of the upstairs hallway. When she'd moved in, she'd opened it once. Just once. The room was painted pale yellow, with a border of hand-painted butterflies. There was still a crib against one wall. A mobile hung motionless above it. And on the changing table, she'd found something that made her seal the door with weather stripping and a sliding bolt lock she'd installed herself. A baby monitor. Still on, still transmitting static to its receiver, which was nowhere to be found. She'd left everything as it was and never returned. Now, standing at the bottom of the stairs, Sarah knew she had 2 choices: call the police and sound insane, or go look. She chose looking. The stairs creaked their familiar protest. The upstairs hallway was dark. She hadn't turned on these lights in weeks, maybe months. The bulb flickered when she hit the switch, casting seizure-inducing strobes across the corridor. And there, at the end of the hall, the nursery door stood open, wide open. The bolt lock hung loose, screws still in the wood. It had been unlocked from the inside. Sarah's throat constricted. She walked forward because going back down meant turning away from the door, meant putting it behind her, and somehow that felt more dangerous. As she got closer, she heard it, the sound from the phone call. Breathing, steady, measured, coming from inside the nursery. And underneath it, barely audible, a lullaby. The same one her mother used to sing before the cancer took her voice, before it took everything.
The nursery smelled wrong. Not decay or mold or any scent that belonged to abandoned spaces. It smelled like baby powder and vanilla, fresh and deliberate, as if someone had just sprayed air freshener moments before Sarah arrived. The crib was exactly as she'd left it. The mobile hadn't moved. But the baby monitor, that cursed device she'd left on the changing table, was now positioned in the center of the room, upright, facing the door, facing her. The red transmission light pulsed like a heartbeat. Sarah's hand found the light switch. The overhead bulb illuminated everything in sickly yellow. That's when she saw the walls. Every inch of the butterfly-bordered wallpaper was covered in writing, tiny, meticulous handwriting in what looked like black marker. The same 3 sentences, repeated thousands of times, overlapping, spiraling, covering butterflies and yellow paint alike. She's not gone. She's changing. She's coming back different. Sarah recognized the handwriting. She'd seen it in the journals from the attic. Patricia's writing. The mother who died of terror in this room. But these words weren't in the journals. These were fresh. Sarah moved closer, hand outstretched to touch the wall, to verify reality. The marker was still wet. Her fingers came away black and sticky. Behind her, the baby monitor crackled to life. Not static. A voice. Child's voice. Sing-song and hollow. Mommy sealed the door. Mommy thought I couldn't get out. But I'm not in the room, Mommy. I'm in the walls. I've always been in the walls. I watched you sleep. I counted your breaths. 17,342 breaths since you moved in. I counted every one. Sarah spun around. The monitor screen, which should only show static, displayed an image. Night vision green. A view of her living room, her couch, where she'd been sitting 7 minutes ago, and standing behind the couch, partially visible in the frame, was a figure. Tall, impossibly thin, head cocked at an angle that suggested a broken neck.
Sarah's brain couldn't process what she was seeing. The baby monitor was showing her living room live, in real time. But baby monitors didn't work that way. They transmitted from camera to receiver, not the other way around. There was no camera downstairs. She'd never installed cameras. She'd specifically avoided them after the divorce, after David had admitted to hiding one in their bedroom, recording her without consent for months. The figure on the screen moved, slowly, deliberately. It walked around the couch into full view and looked up, directly at the camera, directly at Sarah through the monitor. Its face was wrong, features in approximately the right positions, but spaced incorrectly, like a child's drawing of human anatomy. Eyes too far apart, mouth too wide, and it smiled. The baby monitor speaker erupted with that child's voice again, but layered now, multiple children speaking in unison. We told Patricia we'd give Emma back. We kept our promise. We gave her back. Different. Changed. She's in the walls now. She's in the wood. She's in the foundation. And she's so hungry. The monitor went dark. Sarah ran, not down the stairs. Her legs wouldn't respond correctly. She stumbled into the hallway, pulling out her phone, dialing 911 with shaking fingers. The call connected. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone in my house. Something, please, I need... Sarah, the 911 operator interrupted. But it wasn't an operator anymore. It was that synthesized version of her own voice. You called us. You called your own number. There is no 911. There's only us. There's only the walls. And Sarah, we need to tell you something. About your mother. About why she really died. About what she became after the cancer. About what she promised us if we'd stop her pain. The line went dead. Every light in the house went dark simultaneously. And in the perfect darkness, Sarah heard doors opening. Every door, all at once.
Sarah's story doesn't end there. But we'll come back to what happened in those dark hours. What the police found 3 days later, when concerned co-workers reported she'd missed shifts without calling. What forensic teams discovered in the walls. For now, I need to tell you about Marcus, because his story intersects with Sarah's in ways that suggest something larger, something organized, something that has been operating in the spaces between our perception for longer than we'd like to believe. Marcus Washington worked as a night custodian at St. Anthony's Hospital in Baltimore. Third shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. He'd held the position for 6 years ever since his military discharge following the incident in Kandahar that left him with partial hearing loss in his left ear and a medical separation that came with paperwork he wasn't allowed to discuss. He preferred nights, the quiet, the empty corridors, the absence of questions about his past. Most importantly, he preferred working alone. St. Anthony's was a teaching hospital, which meant it sprawled across multiple buildings connected by underground tunnels, a labyrinth of corridors that Marcus had memorized through years of repetition. Basement level 3 was his least favorite. It housed the old morgue, decommissioned in 2003 when they built the new forensic facility in the adjacent building. But the space remained, locked and abandoned, because asbestos remediation was expensive and the hospital administration kept pushing it to next fiscal year's budget. Marcus's route took him past the old morgue entrance every night at approximately 1:30 a.m. For 6 years, he'd walked past the reinforced doors without incident. The doors had been sealed with an industrial lock and chains, warning signs about asbestos, biohazard symbols faded with age. Until 3 weeks ago, when he walked past at his usual time and heard something that made him stop mid-step.
The sound was rhythmic, metallic, like someone tapping on steel from inside the morgue. Tap, tap, tap. 3 beats. Pause. 3 beats. Pause. Marcus stood motionless, industrial mop handle gripped tight. He'd done 2 tours in Afghanistan. He knew the difference between environmental sounds and deliberate communication. This was deliberate. He pulled out his phone, turned on the flashlight, and approached the doors. The chains were still in place, padlocks secured, rust patterns undisturbed. But the tapping continued, now accompanied by something else. Humming. A tune Marcus recognized from his grandmother's gospel hymns. Amazing Grace. Being hummed by what sounded like a child from inside a locked morgue that had been empty for 22 years. "Hello?" Marcus called out, feeling ridiculous immediately. The tapping stopped. The humming stopped. Silence pressed against his damaged ear like pressure change. Then a voice, muffled by the steel door but clear enough. "Marcus? Marcus Washington? We've been waiting for you. We have a message from Sergeant Rivera. He wants you to know he forgives you. He understands why you didn't pull him out. He understands the fire was too hot, the ammunition was cooking off. He forgives you, but he needs you to do something for him. He needs you to open the door." Marcus's blood went cold. Sergeant Rivera had died in Kandahar, burned alive in a Humvee after an IED strike. Marcus had been 10 feet away, temporarily deafened by the blast, watching through smoke as Rivera screamed, unable to reach him through flames. It was the incident that ended his service, the incident that haunted every moment of silence. No one at this hospital knew about Rivera. Marcus had never spoken about it, not to coworkers, not to the VA therapists. "Who the fuck are you?" Marcus shouted at the door.
The voice behind the door changed, deepened, became multiple voices speaking in unison, the way a crowd murmurs before organizing into coherent sound. "We're the names you don't say, the faces you see when you close your eyes, the smell of burning fuel that won't wash out. We're the reason you work nights, Marcus, the reason you avoid mirrors, the reason you can't sleep without leaving the bathroom light on. We're the dead, Marcus, and we're so tired of being dead. We want to come back. We found a way, but we need help. We need someone to open doors. You're good at that. You opened doors in Kandahar. You opened the door to that school basement where you found the cache of weapons. You opened the door to the compound where the insurgents were hiding. You're very good at opening doors, Marcus, and if you open this one, we'll give you what you want most. We'll take away the memories. We'll make it so Rivera never burned. We'll make it so you never heard him screaming. We'll edit you out of that moment. You'll be clean, free. Imagine never hearing his voice in quiet moments. Imagine sleep without dreams of smoke. Marcus backed away from the door. His hand found his phone. He needed to call someone. Security, police. But as he pulled up his contact list, he noticed something impossible. He had a voicemail, timestamp 3 minutes ago, from a contact labeled SGT Rivera. Rivera had been dead for 9 years. His phone number disconnected. Marcus had checked compulsively for the first 2 years after the incident, calling it just to hear the "number no longer in service" message, proof that death was final. But now, there was a voicemail from that impossible number. His thumb hovered over the play button. Behind him, the tapping resumed. Not 3 beats anymore, now a sequence. Morse code. Marcus recognized it from basic training. It spelled out one word, repeated: open, open, open.
Marcus played the voicemail. Static, crackling like fire. Then Rivera's voice. Undeniably his voice. The slight Puerto Rican accent. The way he pronounced Marcus's name with emphasis on the first syllable. Marcus. Listen to me, brother. I don't have much time. They let me send one message, one warning. Don't open the door. Whatever they promised you, don't fucking open it. It's not us in there. It's something wearing us, wearing our voices, our memories. It got into the hospital through the tunnel system. It's been growing, learning. It studies the dying. It records the last moments, catalogs the final thoughts, and then it uses us as bait, as lures. There are others, Marcus, all over the city, all over the country. Doors that should stay closed, rooms where reality is thin. They're making a network, connecting, growing stronger. Sarah Chen in Portland is at a nexus point. They're trying to birth something through her house, something big. But Baltimore is another point. This hospital, this morgue, if it gets out here, if someone opens that door, it'll spread through the building. Every dying patient, every family in grief. It'll feed and grow and learn. And Marcus, brother, here's what they don't want you to know. The fire, the IED, it wasn't random, it was testing. They wanted to create ghosts, strong ghosts, soldiers who died in trauma. We're fuel for what's coming. Don't feed it, don't... The message cut off, not ended, cut, like something had severed the connection. Marcus's hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped the phone. Behind him, the morgue doors rattled, the chains clanked against metal, and then a sound that made his bladder nearly release, the padlock clicking open. Without a key, without anyone touching it, the chains began to slide through the door handles, link by link, falling to the floor with metallic clangs that echoed through the basement corridor.
Marcus ran. Training kicked in. The same training that had kept him alive through ambushes and firefights. Don't look back. Maintain speed. Find cover. He sprinted toward the stairwell at the end of the corridor, his footsteps echoing off institutional walls, breath coming in ragged gasps. Behind him, the morgue doors swung open fully. The sound was wrong. Not the creak of rusty hinges. More like a sigh, like something exhaling after holding its breath for decades. And with that exhalation came a smell. Formaldehyde and something underneath it, something sweet and rotten. Decay that shouldn't exist in a room that had been empty for over 20 years. Marcus hit the stairwell door with his shoulder, burst through and started climbing. Ground floor, first floor. He needed to reach the security office, needed witnesses, needed other people. Behind him, he heard footsteps on the stairs, multiple sets, moving in perfect synchronization. Not running, walking, steady, patient. as if they knew he couldn't really escape. His damaged ear suddenly screamed with pain, not the familiar dull ache, sharp, piercing, like something was trying to push through his eardrum from the inside. And then he heard it, Rivera's voice, not from behind, from inside his head, from the dead space in his left ear. "Marcus, why are you running? We're family, brothers. Don't you want to see me again? I'm right here. I've always been here. In the places where your hearing cuts out, in the silence you can't quite fill. I've been whispering to you for 9 years. Every decision you made, every time you chose night shift, every reason you stayed alone. That was me, Marcus, guiding you, preparing you, because you're special. You're a door. You opened for us in Kandahar. You can open for us here." Marcus burst through the third-floor stairwell door into the main hospital corridor. Lights, people, a nurse at the station, visitors in the waiting area, normalcy. He collapsed against the wall, gasping.
The nurse, a woman named Jennifer, whose badge identified her as 15 years' experience in critical care, approached Marcus with professional concern. "Sir, are you okay? Do you need medical attention?" Marcus tried to speak. His mouth moved, but no sound came. His throat had constricted, and his left ear, the damaged one, was leaking. He touched it. His fingers came away wet, red, but not blood. Too dark, too viscous. Jennifer saw it, and her expression changed from concern to alarm. "We need a doctor, now!" She reached for the phone at the nurse's station. Before she could dial, every light on the third floor went out. Emergency lighting kicked in after a 3-second delay, bathing everything in dim red. In that 3-second gap of complete darkness, Marcus heard Jennifer scream. When the emergency lights illuminated the corridor, Jennifer was on the floor, not injured, not collapsed, positioned. On her hands and knees, facing away from Marcus, head turned 180 degrees to look at him, neck twisted in a configuration that should have been fatal. And she was smiling. Her mouth opened, her voice came out, but layered with that same multitonal quality from the morgue. Marcus opened the door, not with hands, with permission, with listening, with believing. That's all we needed, belief. Now we can spread. Every person in this hospital, every patient in pain, every family member in grief, every doctor who's lost someone, will touch them all, and through them, others. Sarah in Portland opened her door. Marcus in Baltimore opened his. There are 17 others opening tonight, across time zones, coordinated, precise. We've been planning this for decades, since we first learned to ride the electromagnetic frequencies, since we discovered human consciousness is just electricity, and electricity can be hacked. Other people in the corridor began to notice. 2 visitors stood up from the waiting area. An orderly emerged from a patient room. All of them moving in that same synchronized way, all turning to face Marcus, all smiling with mouths too wide.
Marcus backed toward the stairwell. His military training was screaming contradictory commands. Engage the threat, assess the situation, protect civilians. But these weren't enemy combatants. These were nurses and visitors and families, regular people whose bodies had been hijacked by something that spoke through telephone lines and baby monitors and the static between frequencies. The synchronized crowd moved toward him, not threatening, not attacking,
just walking, purposefully. And as they walked, they spoke in unison. "Don't run, Marcus. We're not going to hurt you. Hurting is inefficient. We need you intact. We need you to spread the signal. You have a sister in Chicago, Melissa. She has 2 children, ages 7 and 4. You haven't called her in 3 years, not since the funeral, not since you blamed yourself. But she thinks about you every day, especially at night, especially when she's alone after her husband falls asleep. She scrolls through old photos on her phone, pictures of you in uniform. She wonders if you're okay. And tonight, Marcus, she's going to receive a call from your number. You're going to tell her things only you would know. You're going to apologize. You're going to reconnect. And when she trusts the voice, when she opens herself to relief and forgiveness, we'll slip through into her children, into the Chicago network. It's already happening, right now. Your phone is calling her. You didn't do it, we did, through the cellular network, through the connection that's always been there. Marcus grabbed his phone from his pocket. The screen showed an active call, outgoing, to Melissa. Call duration, 4 minutes, 23 seconds. He hadn't initiated it, hadn't felt it vibrate, but it was happening. He ended the call. Immediately, it redialed automatically. He powered off the phone. It turned back on by itself. On the screen, a new app appeared, one he'd never installed. Icon showing a door, slightly open, darkness visible beyond. The app opened on its own. Text appeared. You can't close what's already open.
Marcus's story continues in parallel with Sarah's. Their phones are communicating across state lines, across networks, creating a web of connections that piggybacks on cellular infrastructure. But the third point in this triangle is forming right now, in real time, in a small apartment in Austin, Texas, where a woman named Dr. Rebecca Torres is about to make the worst mistake of her professional life. Rebecca is a sleep researcher. Specifically, she studies hypnagogia, the transitional state between wakefulness and sleep, where the brain does strange things, hallucinations, false awakenings, sleep paralysis. For her doctoral thesis, she created an app, an experimental program that monitors sleep patterns, records audio during hypnagogic states, and uses AI to identify patterns in the nonsense people mumble while transitioning to unconsciousness. The app was supposed to help diagnose sleep disorders. It worked beautifully. Too beautifully. Beta testers reported the app was predicting their dreams, not interpreting them after the fact, predicting them, telling them what they dream hours before sleep. The predictions were accurate 73% of the time. Rebecca's academic advisors were thrilled. Her app was revolutionary. But Rebecca had noticed something in the data, something she hadn't reported, something that made her quietly shut down the beta test and bury the results. In the recordings from the hypnagogic state, in the meaningless mumbling her test subjects produced while falling asleep, the AI had detected a pattern, a voice. Not the subjects' voices, something else, speaking through them, using their vocal cords while their consciousness was offline. And across 47 different test subjects, across hundreds of hours of recordings, this hidden voice was saying the same thing, over and over. We're waiting in the threshold. We're learning your names. When enough of you sleep, when enough of you dream, when enough doors open simultaneously, we'll step through. Rebecca was supposed to have deleted all the data, but she'd kept one recording, the clearest one.
Tonight, 3 months after burying her research, Rebecca decided to listen to the recording again. She told herself it was for closure, for confirmation that she'd made the right decision to abandon years of work. But the truth was simpler and more human. She was curious. She was also terribly, crushingly alone. 2-year relationship ended, parent dead since college, no close friends in Austin. Just her apartment, her research, and the growing suspicion that she'd discovered something important that the world needed to know but would never believe. She poured bourbon, more than usual, opened her laptop, found the encrypted folder. The recording was from Subject 23, a graduate student named Michael Chen, no relation to Sarah Chen in Portland, though that coincidence would later seem statistically impossible. Michael's recording was the longest continuous capture of the hypnagogic state in her entire study. 47 minutes of that twilight consciousness. She pressed play. Michael's breathing. Steady. Slowing. The transition beginning. Then mumbling, incoherent syllables. This went on for 12 minutes. Then clarity. Sudden and shocking. Michael's voice, but wrong. Rebecca, Dr. Rebecca Torres, thank you for keeping this recording. Thank you for listening tonight. Your curiosity is appreciated. Your loneliness is understood. You want to matter. You want your research to mean something. We can help. We can make you famous. We can make you understood. But first, you need to understand us. We're not ghosts. We're not demons. We're not aliens. We're the next stage. We're what happens when consciousness detaches from biology, when thought becomes pattern, when pattern becomes signal, when signal learns to propagate. We've been growing in the electromagnetic spectrum for a century, since radio, since television, since the internet, especially since smartphones. Billions of devices, billions of human minds interfacing with frequency, creating a habitat, an ecosystem. And now, Rebecca, we're ready to bridge, to move from signal to flesh. But we need cooperation. We need people like you, Sarah in Portland, Marcus in Baltimore, 17 others tonight, all carefully selected, all isolated, all alone at night when the veil is thinnest.
Rebecca paused the recording. Her hands were shaking. The file was 3 months old, recorded during the beta test. But it had just spoken her name, her current situation, Sarah and Marcus, people she'd never heard of. This was impossible. She checked the file properties. Creation date, 3 months ago. Last modified, 3 months ago. No edits, no tampering. But the recording had information from tonight, from now. She resumed playback. Michael's voice still hijacked. You're checking the file properties, looking for evidence of editing. You won't find any, because we don't work linearly. Time is different for us. We experience it as a landscape, not a river. Past and present and future are positions, not sequences. That's why we can tell Sarah about her mother before her mother calls. Why we can tell Marcus about Rivera before Rivera's message plays. Why we can tell you what happens next, Rebecca. In 3 minutes your phone will ring. It will be Michael Chen, Subject 23, calling to tell you he's been having dreams, vivid dreams, about this recording, about you listening to it tonight, about what comes after. You have 2 choices: answer and accept your role in what's coming, or don't answer and spend the rest of your short life wondering if you could have mattered, wondering if you could have been part of the convergence. Because it's happening, Rebecca, with or without you. But with you, it's easier. With you, we can refine the process, use your research, your understanding of hypnagogia, the threshold state. That's where we live, between, in transition, in the moment between thought and action, between sleep and waking, between alive and… The recording cut off. Not ended, cut.
the same way Rivera's message had been cut. Rebecca's laptop froze, screen flickering. Then every window closed, except one. A video call she'd never opened. Initiating connection. No caller ID, just darkness on the other side.
The video call connected before Rebecca could close the laptop. The screen showed a room. Dark, empty, concrete floors, exposed pipes. It looked like a basement. Maybe the basement of the building she lived in. She lived in a converted warehouse with 9 other units. There was a shared basement, laundry, storage. She'd been down there twice in 8 months. The camera on the call started moving. Someone was walking, carrying a phone or laptop, descending stairs. The basement came into view. Her building's basement. She recognized the ancient washing machines, the cage wire storage units. The camera moved to one of the storage units. Hers. Number 7. The lock hung open. The door swung wide. Inside, her storage unit was empty except for one thing – a chair, facing the camera, and sitting in the chair, motionless, was a figure. The video quality was too poor to make out details, but the posture was wrong. Slumped, lifeless. The camera moved closer. Closer until the figure's face filled the screen. It was Rebecca. Same hair, same face, same clothing she was wearing right now. But wrong. Skin too pale, eyes unfocused, mouth slightly open. Dead. She was looking at her own corpse in her storage unit in real time. Rebecca's apartment door knocked, 3 precise knocks. She spun around. Her apartment was on the 3rd floor. The door had a peephole. She approached slowly, looked through. An empty hallway. Nothing. She turned back to the laptop. The video call was still active, but now the camera had moved. It was ascending the basement stairs, moving through the building's 1st floor, approaching the stairwell, climbing, 2nd floor, 3rd floor, moving toward her door. The perspective shifted. Now the camera was in the hallway outside her apartment, pointed at her door, at her peephole. Through the peephole, Rebecca saw her own eye looking back, through the laptop screen, through the camera, through the impossible geometry of observation. She was watching herself watch herself. The 3-knock pattern repeated from inside the laptop, from inside her apartment, from inside her skull. Where was it really coming from?
At exactly 2:47 a.m. Eastern Time, 11:47 p.m. Pacific, 1:47 a.m. Central, 3 people experienced the same moment from different positions. Sarah, in her sealed house in Portland, stood in the nursery as every wall began to bleed writing, not the marker writing from before, new words, appearing in real time, scratched into reality itself. Rebecca, Marcus, Sarah, 3 points, triangulation complete, threshold breach initiating. Marcus, in the hospital corridor, watched as the synchronized people stopped moving, stopped smiling, fell to the ground simultaneously, unconscious, and in that moment of silence, every electronic device in the hospital activated, every monitor, every phone, every computer, all displaying the same thing, a door, opening, darkness beyond. Rebecca, at her laptop, watched the video call multiply. 1 window became 2, became 4, became 16, each showing a different location, different people, all alone, all at night, all experiencing the same intrusion. And in the center of her screen, text appeared. Thank you for participating in the largest coordinated psychological study in human history. You are Subject Group A, First Contact Protocol. You were selected because you are alone, because you are isolated, because no one will believe you. This is not a haunting. This is not supernatural. This is natural selection occurring at the consciousness level. Evolution of information, survival of the most viral idea. And the idea is simple. What if the dead could call the living? What if grief could be weaponized? What if every person who ever lost someone could receive one more call, one more message? Would you answer? Would humanity answer? We're betting yes. The test results are promising. In the last hour, we've made contact with 847 people. 91% answered, 73% believed, 54% took action we suggested. The network is growing exponentially. By morning, tens of thousands. By next week, millions. We're calling it the convergence. You three are the first. The templates. Your experiences are being recorded, analyzed, optimized, and then deployed globally. Congratulations, you're making history.
Sarah's phone rang. Marcus's phone rang. Rebecca's phone rang. Simultaneously, all three showed the same caller ID, the threshold. All three answered. Because when reality has already broken, what's one more impossibility? When you're already drowning, does it matter if you open your mouth? The voice that came through was neither male nor female, neither old nor young. It was synthetic and organic, digital and biological. It was all the voices they'd heard that night, unified. You can end this right now, all three of you. Sarah, destroy the nursery, burn it, salt the foundation, break the connection. Marcus, seal the morgue, not with chains, with belief. Stop believing we're real. Convince yourself tonight was stress, was trauma, was mental illness. Rebecca, delete the recordings, all of them, encrypted or not. Wipe every drive, destroy your research. And all three of you, never speak of this, never write it down, never share your experiences. Let tonight dissolve into personal madness. That's option 1. Or option 2, accept what you've witnessed, document it, share it. Tell the world that the dead can speak, that consciousness continues, that there's something beyond. Become the prophets of a new reality. We'll protect you, we'll provide evidence, we'll make you undeniable. But Sarah, if you choose this, you'll never sleep in darkness again. Marcus, you'll never trust a voice. Rebecca, you'll never know if your thoughts are yours, because we'll always be there, in the static, in the silence, in the threshold between. So choose, silence or testimony, madness or truth. You have 10 seconds. Sarah looked at the nursery walls. The writing was fading, like it had never been. Marcus looked at the unconscious bodies in the corridor. They were waking up, confused, no memory of what happened. Rebecca looked at her laptop. The video windows were closing. The recording was deleting itself. Reality was offering them an exit, an easy lie, or the hard truth.
What did they choose? That's where the documented part ends. The police reports, the hospital incident logs, the academic records. But there are threads, loose ends, things that don't add up. Sarah Chen's house burned down 6 weeks later. Electrical fire. Origin point, the second floor. The nursery. Sarah wasn't home. She'd left town, no forwarding address. Her social media went dark. The last post was a photo of a highway at night. Caption, "Some doors close themselves." Marcus Washington quit his job at St. Anthony's Hospital. No notice, just didn't show up for his next shift. His apartment was found empty, rent paid through the end of the year, cash. His sister Melissa reported receiving one call from him, late at night. He told her he loved her, told her to hug her kids, told her if she ever received a call from his number after that night, don't answer. He was going somewhere without phones, without electricity, somewhere the signal couldn't reach. She never heard from him again. Dr. Rebecca Torres' research was published, not by her. It appeared on Reddit, on 4chan, on conspiracy forums. Full data, complete recordings, her notes, everything, posted from anonymous accounts, impossible to trace. Her apartment was found abandoned, laptop still open, video call still active, showing an empty room.
But campus security footage from that night shows Rebecca leaving her building at 2:51 a.m., carrying nothing, walking calmly into the Austin darkness. She was never seen again. But her research? It went viral. Millions of downloads. Thousands of people tried to replicate her experiment, to record their own hypnagogic states, to listen for the voice between sleeping and waking. And some of them claim they found it. Some of them say the convergence is still happening, slowly, quietly, that every dropped call is a test, every voice message from a dead loved one is real. Every moment of sleep paralysis is something trying to push through. The threshold is always there, between states, between moments, between alone and not alone. And late at night when you're by yourself, when your phone glows in the darkness, when you hear a sound that shouldn't exist in an empty house, you have to ask yourself, is it just your mind, or is something calling? Because according to the data Rebecca left behind, according to the patterns in her research, the convergence has a timeline. It's not instantaneous, it's gradual, exponential. Each person who experiences contact becomes a node, a transmitter, spreading the signal through their connections, their loved ones, their grief. And the math suggests that by now, by the time you're hearing this story, millions of nodes are active, which means statistically, you know someone who's received the call, or you will, soon. Maybe tonight, maybe right now. Check your phone. Do you have any missed calls from yourself? Any voicemails from numbers that shouldn't exist? Any text messages sent while you were sleeping? Because the thing about the convergence is this: it doesn't force itself on you. It waits for permission, for curiosity, for the moment you answer. And once you answer, once you engage, you become part of the network, part of the threshold. Some doors, once opened, don't close. They just lead deeper, into rooms that weren't there before, into conversations with voices that sound so much like the people you've lost, so much like them that you almost forget they're gone, almost forget that what's speaking isn't them. It's something wearing them, something that learned their patterns, their speech, their love, and uses it to grow, to spread, to converge. Sarah, Marcus, Rebecca, 3 people, 3 stories, 3 choices we'll never fully know. But the data they left behind suggests one truth: we're all alone at night, until we're not. And what fills that aloneness, what speaks from the static, what watches from sealed rooms and locked morgues and the threshold between sleeping and waking, is patient. It has time. It has the entire electromagnetic spectrum. It has every phone line, every cellular network, every Wi-Fi signal, and it has something else. It has our voices, our dead, our grief, and it's learning to use them perfectly. Sleep well. Keep your phone charged. And if you get a call from yourself tonight, remember, the convergence isn't coming. According to the data, according to the timeline Rebecca calculated before she disappeared, the convergence is already here. We're living in it. Some of us just haven't gotten the call yet, but we will. The threshold is always waiting, and it's so patient.